Well, I suppose I should start with the good news. And the good news is that my camera wasn't significantly damaged after it took the fall yesterday. It was definitely really gritted up, lots of sand in it, and the focusing's a little weird. I don't know if that's the result of sand getting in the gears, but it doesn't feel really gritty. More so, it's just a little bit hard to turn the focus. So I'm hoping something didn't get bent and something didn't get kind of messed up like that. But I'll be able to limp the camera along for the rest of the trip. But even if something happens where I find that it really did get damaged and it's not usable, I do have a second 8x10 camera with me, so that'll be fine. The lens I had on it, I had my 150mm wide angle lens, and that lens is pretty gritty right now. I think it's still going to be functional, but definitely something I'll have to have sent in when I get back from this trip. The casualty of yesterday was my Canon G7X Mark II. So that's the small Canon camera I use for doing, it's basically my lightweight video setup. And the wind's picking up again. But that camera, it got really gritted up with sand. I was using that to film video as I was recovering the 8x10 camera. And the wind kicked up and sand got whipped all around, and that camera, it got taken down for the count. So that'll have to be sent in for repair when I get back. But thankfully nothing happened to my Nikon, which I'm recording this with, which is the higher quality video setup that I have. But now the question is, what should I do? This is where recording the video journals comes in handy, because it allows me to sort of think through the process. And it was really windy overnight, so windy that there was a lot of clouds that were forming. And you can still see some of the clouds back behind me there. And those clouds were forming as the wind was kind of getting whipped up over the mountains. And now they're kind of settling down. So I did find a composition yesterday that would work well for light kind of like this. But that's something I'll have to wait around for tomorrow, because I'll need to set my camera. So the question is, do I wait around for that shot, or do I head on to other parts of the park and sort of cut my losses? And that's a question I really don't know the answer to right now. So I think I'm going to stick around through sunrise and see if I can get a feeling one way or the other as far as what my next move should be. So a little while back I was talking about how I was looking for a sign as far as what should I do? Should I stick around here a little while longer, or should I go to somewhere else in the park, the main Furnace Creek area? And glad to say I got my sign. I was checking my phone, because I actually have cell signal here, and I was checking the weather app. And the weather app shows that there is a 50% chance of rain tomorrow. And I've been checking the weather every single day, and this is the first time I've seen any sort of measurable rain in the forecast. And where I am right now is not a place I'd want to be if there's any rain, because the road that takes to get here, it follows some washes and also cuts across some alluvial fans. And if any of those areas see some big rain, it could just kind of make the road go away. And I'm the only one here, and no one knows that I'm here. So I think the safe thing would be for me to go ahead and head back to the Furnace Creek area, see what I can find over there, get myself an official campsite. But also, when I was checking my phone to see what the weather was going to be, a really, really strong gust of wind swept through at the exact same time that I saw that there was going to be a 50% chance of rain. That, my friends, that's a sign. Now that I'm back at the main highway, I need to air my tires back up. And they're right now somewhere around 16, 17 PSI. I need to get them back up to somewhere around 40 PSI. To do that pretty quickly, I do have a CO2 tank that allows me to fill the tires up pretty fast. For every 1 PSI I need to increase the tire pressure, I count about 2 seconds. So it's a pretty fast way of airing back up. So I've spent a lot of time today just driving around and trying to figure out what I want to do here. I reestablished my base camp to the Furnace Creek area, and when I got in here a little earlier today, it was really, really windy. There was dust devils getting kicked up, and when I got out of my car a couple times to kind of scout some areas, I was just getting whipped around by that wind. So after setting up camp, I went over to one of the slot canyons over kind of near the Mesquite Dunes, figuring that'd be shelter from the wind, and it was mostly sunny skies, so maybe I'd get some reflected light down in there. And I found some interesting stuff, but what was happening is that the sun was moving pretty fast and that light was kind of going away. So I figure if I'm gonna do that, I gotta do that a little bit earlier in the day where I can spend a little more time back in there. But then I was kind of driving around aimlessly and I found this area. This area has some really cool cracked mud textures. This is a flow from an alluvial fan, and I think there might be some potential here. So I went ahead and set up my camera. I got a wide angle lens on there, and then I got a view of the Panamint Range there. A little bit of clouds there, but I'm kind of expecting those either to go away or to completely fill the sky and become overcast. That's kind of what happens here. But my goal is to see what happens here at sunset. I just kind of want to shoot a photo no matter what, but we'll see what happens. And then maybe at sunrise, I'll have some opportunities. But you can see back in the distance, there's some more dust getting kicked up over there. So all I need to have is some sort of decent light with some sort of calm wind, and maybe I'll be able to get my first photo for this trip. As we're getting closer to sunset, the wind is starting to pick up again, and hopefully it settles down after the sun sets, which is when the light's gonna be good. I wanna make sure that my camera doesn't get tossed around like it did yesterday. So I do have it weighted down here, but I opted not to use a sandbag. Instead, I'm using what I call a big ass rock bag. So I got a dry sack here filled with big ass rocks, which is hopefully gonna keep the camera from flying away. I also have a 3-stop grad filter in place there, which will kind of help to control the sky. And then that's for sunset, and then for in the morning, I'd use a 2-stop filter since the sun will be illuminating those mountains. But we'll see what happens. So we got some high clouds that are building in right now, and the camera's all set up, it's ready to go. I tied it down with some strings so it doesn't shake around as much. The wind is not as strong now as it was earlier, but those high clouds are the type of clouds that sometimes like to build in here over the Panamint Range around sunset. So if they continue to build in a little bit, that might be good because they're high enough where they might catch some light. But ultimately, I'm here because I want to take a photo perhaps tomorrow morning. So if I'm able to expose my first sheet of film here this evening, that's fantastic. But the goal really is for tomorrow. I also found some really nice cracked mud textures and patterns and stuff that I'm thinking after shooting a sunrise photo, I'll hurry over there and see if I can find some of those shots. But it's a little too dynamic right now as far as the amount of light back behind the mountains there. But if that does kind of light up a little bit, things calm down a little bit, I might have an interesting photo here for sunset. Pretty excited about this. That was 1 second. Had a little bit of a break in the wind there. Provia 100. That is an incredibly good feeling right now. Putting that dark slide back in. Yes. Gotta shoot doubles. So I went ahead and exposed 3 sheets of film, and I am very, very excited about that because there's like this psychological boost that comes to when you expose that first sheet of film on a trip. You feel like you're being productive. Even if the scene really doesn't look all that great when I get the film back, I still now have this boost going into day 4 now where I feel like I'm being productive. I feel like I'm doing something. But I exposed 2 sheets of Pro V100 as the clouds over the mountains still had some good color on it. And I did 1 sheet of Velvia 50. And the Velvia 50, my shutter did kind of a weird thing, probably because there's sand in it, so we'll see what happens with that. But I am incredibly happy to be out here this evening to expose some film. And this is so dramatically different from yesterday where I was just defeated. And even driving around this morning, I kind of felt defeated. But I got my plan for tomorrow. Camera's gonna stay here overnight, and then I am going to see if we get some good light on those mountains in the morning. And then also after that, my plan is to see if I can shoot some of these kind of cool mud crack things. And there's some cool areas where there's some variety of mud cracks and some rocks embedded in it, stuff like that. But shoot that while the valley here is in shade and might get some kind of neat reflected light. But I am super, super happy about what happened today. Who cares if these photos suck? I'm just glad I exposed some film. If you love this content and want to help support my journey, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube channel, telling a friend, or sending a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year with PayPal or Patreon, and depend on the generous support of people like you to produce this ad-free content. For more information on how to support me, please visit the donations section of my website. Thanks in advance for your support.